Alright, we all know that sometimes mistakes are made, but they may not be reflective of who we are today. However, certain things from our past can follow us and have real consequences on our life and on immigration decision making. So today, we're going to cover a sensitive topic about criminal records and inadmissibility for Canadian immigration, specifically related to spousal sponsorships. In this video, we're going to focus on criminal inadmissibility regarding sponsoring a spouse or common law partner, including some of the types of offenses, what a TRP is, and some options for bringing your spouse or partner to Canada. Now, when thinking about Canadian immigration, anyone who has a criminal record has the potential of not being admissible to Canada, especially if it ends up under serious criminality. However, there's a few exceptions for people who wish to sponsor a spouse or common law partner. Firstly, whenever we talk about criminal inadmissibility, we need to determine what the committed crime is and how it equates to Canadian law. So, we need to do an equivalency test, which must be conducted to determine whether the crime committed is also considered a crime in Canada. You gotta look at when the offense occurred, because different scenarios come into play depending on the timing of the offense as well. Now, in Canada we have three different types of offenses: summary, indictable, and hybrid. Summary offenses are minor offenses that usually result in a fine or short-term imprisonment, and in the US context, for example, they're generally called misdemeanors. Indictable offenses are serious and they tend to lead to imprisonment for longer periods of time, and in the US context, these are called felonies. Now, this is where Canada is unique, as we have offenses which are also called hybrid offenses. And in short, these offenses can both be a summary or an indictable offense, depending on the crime and the severity of it. However, in the immigration context, should your offense be a hybrid offense, it will always be treated as the more serious version, which is an indictable offense. So, I'm sure you can see how this might be a problem for some people, especially when they want nothing more than to settle down with their spouse or partner in Canada and live their life happily ever after. So, can you bring a spouse or partner to Canada with a criminal record? Well, the short answer is usually, but there are different options of doing so. One of the possibilities is that you'll have to file something called a temporary resident permit. A TRP is a document issued by the Canadian government that allows a person to apply for an exception to their inadmissibility. This is a discretionary tool that can be used by an officer to allow someone with special circumstances to be given some grace. To obtain a TRP, the applicant must provide a compelling reason for the person's entry into Canada. It's key to explain why your situation or your case is exceptional and why you deserve it to be issued as a TRP to enter the country. You must also provide information about your criminal history, including the date and nature of the offense, the sentence imposed, and any rehabilitation efforts. The immigration officer will review the application and decide based on its merit and the information provided. Now, it's very important to note that the issuance of the TRP is solely at the reviewing officer's discretion, and they will decide the length of the TRP along with any other parameters that they may wish to impose. Again, applying for a TRP and getting approval is not guaranteed. However, it's an option. Okay? So, that's actually a really complicated area to get into, and we'll have some different videos for that. So I would invite you to check those out. Another option is for a spouse or common law partner to apply under H&C or Humanitarian and Compassionate grounds. This option is generally very viable when a child is involved, and the partner's absence would have significant adverse effects on the child. One of the goals under the Act is to ensure that families are reunited, and when you're speaking about a child and the impacts on a child with not having a parent in their life, well, I'm sure you can agree that this certainly has some H&C considerations that should be considered. It would also be recommended to provide evidence of the person's rehabilitation efforts and any other factors to support their entry into Canada. Because ultimately, the visa officer or the deciding officer that's adjudicating the case has the responsibility to keep Canadians safe, right? That's what their goal is when it comes to this area of immigration. Now, the last option would be to seek rehabilitation, which can be applied for when the person is deemed rehabilitated under the Immigration Act. Now, I don't want to get too heavy into this, but at this point, There's another great video that covers this in terms of criminal inadmissibility, and I went into depth on this with Katina, who's a really good friend of mine. All right, so check that one out. There's a link to it up there. If you want to take another deeper dive, that's what you want to do. So, in conclusion, it's possible to sponsor a spouse or a common law partner with a criminal record under certain conditions. When it comes to family relationships, the Immigration Department has mechanisms in place to consider your past transgressions, but you'll need to provide compelling reasons. Anytime you're dealing with an issue of criminal admissibility, you're going to need to make sure that it's framed properly from the submission and carefully managed all the way through. Additionally, all cases, and especially these types, are unique, and most complex cases tend to look a little bit easy, but they tend to work out a little bit more complicated, let's say. So it's essential to ensure that all the submissions are in order when you eventually do apply. Look, I'm going to leave it at that. It's really a big topic, but if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And in the meantime, thanks for watching this video, and we hope you found it informative. Again, inadmissibility factors can be messy, and it's recommended to seek advice of a professional to ensure the necessary documents are submitted correctly as per the immigration requirements, and you can actually do a proper legal equivalency. It's important to understand that prior to applying, you want to make sure that you articulate the case properly and you frame it properly so that, you can get a jump on that, let's say. Again, thank you for spending the time with me, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can get more great content. Well, at the same time, I'd love to hear from you, so feel free to put your comments below. See you in the next video, guys.